All right. Welcome to the HOCP board members and APLU staff. I would like to announce the meeting open.
Thank you. Today's meeting, as you can see, has a number of items for us to go over with you. We've gotten to the point where we are excited to hopefully adopt our strategic plan and some other housekeeping items. I will turn it over to John Voss, who helps to staff and support the nonprofit HOCP to share some insight in regards to today's meeting, as well as how we are going to ensure that we ultimately provide this meeting to the public.
Thank you, Chelsea. Hello, board directors. Good to see all of you. And just one quick housekeeping item to report today, February 11th, 2025. It's a snowy afternoon in our region, and HOC offices were closed effective 1 p.m. today to allow everyone to safely get back to their homes. The staff involved with today's meeting are working from home, and that has an impact on what we can do with live stream and Zoom meeting. So because of our limitations, this meeting is being recorded on Zoom, but it is not being live streamed. This recording will be uploaded to YouTube and made available on the link on our website, along with the archive of all of our other meetings for future reference.
Thank you.
Good.
I think at this point we're at the acceptance of the minutes. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
All right. I suppose everyone was able to spend time and review the minutes from the previous meetings held on October 28th, 24 and December 17th, 2024. Are there any questions, any issues, any concerns? All right. Hearing none, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Eileen.
All right. Any seconds?
Yeah, I'll second. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Hearing all ayes, minutes for those two meetings held on October 28th and December 12th are approved. All right. The next item does not require a resolution. It's for HOCP staff to present the financials for Q2 of 2025.
Yes, thank you, Varun. All of these reports were sent to you. I hope you had a chance to review them. Ultimately, the balance sheet and statement of activities, which were prepared separately by our finance division, and then the budget to actuals and summary balances that I prepared for your review. So as you know, because of our Inspire Celebration fundraising event, we did increase our unrestricted funds ultimately by 56%. There are a few more donations that are coming in. I had to follow up with reminders on some of our donors fulfilling their pledges of support. So we'll get a few more yet to come in the next several weeks. But as you see, our total assets now have increased to just over $695,000. Of course, with more unrestricted funds, that gives the board wider discretion on supporting a variety of programs going forward. Also, you see on the donor restricted funds, I just wanted to explain the asterisks with more detail if needed, but ultimately we have $27,789 still coming due from Montgomery County to reimburse our grant-funded activities. So when we receive that, then of course the donor restricted funds will be in the positive. Also, you will note that the budget to actuals There's, of course, on the income side, it reflects all of our donations through December 31st. And you see there on that second line, or the first line, Montgomery County grant STEM activities, that's where that 27,000 will be posted. So on the income side, we're doing pretty well. On the expense side, it shows that we only have right now, as of December 31st, a little over 85,000 in posted expenses. So many expenses related to the gala, for example, were paid for by credit card, and that slows down the posting in our accounting system in Yardi, as well as some additional grant or activities that were funded by the board designated funding awards. So those will be increasing. Also, the back to school drive, many of those expenses were posted after December 31st. So we will show more activity. Davida and her team and we met and talked about projections on this next second half of the fiscal year. We don't anticipate spending down all of the line items in the budget, but we will be spending down on several of them. There will be increased activity now going forward. So we don't want you to be overly concerned about that figure. Again, it's because of many items not being posted just yet. And also, we will have increased activity going forward this second half of this fiscal year. And also, sorry about how this is shown. It wouldn't let me. Let's see, AJ, can I turn this? I could do it like this, right? There we go. Okay. So there you see just an overview of all of our summary account lines. So does anyone have any questions or concerns about our financial reports? Oh, there's Teresa. Good. Okay, I guess that's a good thing. No questions, concerns?
All right. So I think the next item is for deliberation, and I don't think any action is needed, but I believe we might have to accept after discussion if anybody has questions on the audit report. So just to give you a background, I myself, Ken, and Teresa, we met with the auditors about 2 weeks ago to discuss the audit and to ask questions. They reported back that the management was very helpful in conducting the audit. The audit came out clean, and now I can hand over to John to go over any other comments from the audit.
Thank you. Yes, and so the officers of the board traditionally meet with the auditors before the final draft is presented to you. And so they did review and they had no questions. The audit, if we just scroll down a little bit more down here. Oh, I'm sorry. I have it separate. It's not part of the package. So here you see the governance letter, which usually is not shared in the public, but all of these items on policies and estimates, financial disclosures, performing the audits, any misstatements, corrected or uncorrected, any disagreements, there were absolutely no findings in any of these areas. So as Varun stated, this truly is a clean a clean audit. And here's the actual report. Hopefully you had a chance to review it. You'll see on the assets side, of course, there was a reduction, which we anticipated because this audited year is an off year in terms of our fundraising. It was a non-gala year, and we did project in our organizational budget that we would be drawing down on our assets to fund our programs. But you see, this year being a gala year, we are now back well over 600,000 in our assets.
John, I think you want to go back. 24 was a gala year, not 23.
Oh, no.
Yes.
The fiscal. This is fiscal.
Yes. So 24 was a gala year, not 23.
No, this fiscal year, fiscal 25.
So 24.
Is a
Okay, got it. So 24. Yeah. This is June 30th. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
And then I don't know if, of course, the minus sign usually raises some questions. So if you allow me, I can go down to that and explain the balances on the various programs. You'll see here from 23 to 24, a negative balance for the kids STEM. Of course, that's related to timing. Once again, when the fiscal year closed, we were still awaiting a $7,000 reimbursement from the county for that account string. So when this fiscal year will close, we anticipate that there'll be no deficit there. So you saw in our budget to actuals, the income side for this was already 7,000. That was the payment we were awaiting. The fatherhood STEM, that was slightly overspent, and we used general fund monies to cover that. So you may have noticed in the summary balances that was already addressed. Other than that, there were no findings. There were no requests for additional information. All of the due to froms and the accruals were timely handled. So this was a fairly easy budget. But if you don't have any questions, then we could proceed to the next item for this resolution, and that would be the 990. So before we go there, any questions on the audit?
No, we had a good conversation with the auditor, and going forward, we made a few small changes, but nothing significant.
So this was this is the final signed copy, right, John?
Oh,
the audit? Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Again, John, a very small cosmetic thing for the record. If you can ask the auditors for next time, if you go into the notes, to take out the rows where there is no amount for this year or the previous year.
Yes.
Where it says girls got it. Yes, please. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Next thing you're going to comment on the 990?
So the 990. So the 990, of course, is also prepared by CLA, our auditor, and they use all the numbers from the audit for the filing of this form as well. So there are different accounting rules with filing this form on how to show income. On the audit, we have to show not only income, but included with the income, we must also show the value of any in-kind contributions that we receive and also the value of the volunteer hours that we logged. So that's all compiled for the general assets. Of course, it's detailed out, but when it's hard to match all of those numbers when we compare them to the 990 because there are different rules on how to show different types of income. But having said all that, I could assure you that the finance department and I reviewed this filing, this draft filing, and all of the numbers do accurately portray what was represented in the audit. Alexandra and Eileen, I'm sure you probably have experience with 990s for your organizations. Do you have any questions or any particular page you would like us to go to for review?
It's filed on a 2023 filing on the very top. Should that be 2024?
They use that year to show the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. I was trying to remember okay.
Yeah.
And then this is just a technicality, but like technically a 990 is usually not approved by the board. It's just accepted. So I don't know, I felt like our language was it's not ever required to be approved like an audit is approved. You're just supposed to essentially give the rule, as I understand it, is that the board has to be provided the 990, but they're not necessarily expected to approve the 990. So just as it doesn't particularly matter, but that's my understanding of the audit, and I usually have never had my boards approve 990s.
That is correct, Eileen. We are not approving it today. That's why we're only deliberating, not approving.
Okay, I think the language might say in the resolution might say approve.
I think is to authorize us to file on your behalf. Let me get to that. Here we go.
But yeah, that's seeming like, I don't know, that's weird language for me.
Okay.
Oh, is approved for filing.
Yeah, it says it's approved, right?
Yeah,
so.
the auditors include such language in the actual 990. And it's because of our unique relationship with HOC that technically Chelsea is the one signing the 990 form, and so that's why the board basically authorizes Chelsea to sign on behalf of the board. So you see in this resolution, we are asking for the audit report to be accepted and then to approve for filing 990.
Okay.
Eileen, I think you were on mute. Were you on mute? You're going in and out in terms of your volume. I could tell that you said, don't worry about it, but I can't hear what you're saying. Okay. All right. But at this juncture, John, are you indicating, no, we cannot hear you.
We can't hear you, Eileen.
I wonder if you have a concern or comment, we could hold on next steps if you want to place it in the chat. Okay, we're okay to go. So, yes, we could just advance this item.
Okay. Ken, are you okay with
Yeah,
how
yeah.
this is set up?
Yeah, that's all right. And I mean, you have, it looks like it says what, president and the executive director of HOS, either one?
It's the same person. It's,
All right. Oh, I've got it.
yeah.
The president. Yeah, right.
I
Okay.
think you should be able to hear me now. Sorry. I've been
Yes,
just
great.
having all these
Okay.
problems with, anyhow, I'm bringing this up more for next year, but I mean, you just said this, Vern, right? Like the board is not supposed to approve, which is what this says in this resolution. So, um,
Would you like me, let me see here.
You can change.
And I understand, while that might not be your past experience, just for my edification, what the challenge is there, because what it does, in my opinion, is especially since the board is involved in the audit report and it's being produced, it confirms that what we're filing is what was provided to this board, and it does provide an extra layer of confirmation that my signing it is reflective of what you all have authorized me to sign on your behalf. So while it might not be practice or something that you've done in the past, is there some kind of legal reason or some other reason why it is not appropriate?
Yeah, Chelsea, very good question. And let me comment and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken or
ahead.
Eileen. The audit report is the responsibility of the auditors. Nobody can change, accept, or deny the audit report. Basically, we will accept it in our records. For the 990, the board does not compare the numbers actually to your books of record for your in terms of bookkeeping. So we cannot, the board cannot exactly figure out if these numbers are correct. They generally look fine, but it is the responsibility of the management to provide the correct numbers to the company which is preparing or helping you prepare the 990. So it is okay to say that the audit report was accepted into the record. That seems fine. For the 990, also approved for filing. I'm trying to recall if that term can put us in any problem, Ken. But I think for sure we can say, usually what I would recommend, John, is going forward, is since we're talking about next year, what organizations generally do is distribute the 990 via email 2 weeks before the filing, and ask the board, give the board due time about 2 weeks to be able to, or a week, whatever is generally acceptable, and say the board has but the board can review and come up with questions or comments within the next 2 weeks. If there are no comments or questions, then we will believe that there were no questions or inquiries and we are ready to file. So that gives the board to time to review, and then if there are no comments or questions, then you have the right to file it.
and Chelsea, I hear you. I mean, I've had to sign a 990 as a CEO, and I will say I read it super closely, and I have found issues with 990s that the auditor, not major issues, but just some things. So it is, I mean, you are signing it as management. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not making the issue this year, but I think we should make that correct next year, because that it is management's responsibility, basically.
And Chelsea, the 990 is such an interesting document that I also file it for my organization, and I can tell you I sign it too, but I can never be sure in the last 30 years that I've been filing for my organizations and signing it that it is 100% accurate. It's 99.5%, 99.1% accurate, 99.2%, because there could be the name of a board member which may not have the correct spellings. There may be the term that may not be exactly correct. The amount might be off by a few dollars. and the mission statement may not exactly match what the mission statement is for the organization. And so there's so many things because it's not a tax return which is like our personal tax return. This is more like an informational return because there is no taxes involved on a 990.
Right, and I'm familiar. I was just trying to make sure I understood what the challenge or hesitation would be in terms of that being something that is produced and ultimately a level of confirmation is provided that it can be executed on behalf of the board and on behalf of the nonprofit. Obviously, in terms of my signing it, as well as all of the tax returns that I signed for so many entities, and we own way too many with the HOC. I have to rely upon the expertise of the accounting firms that also help produce these documents, who assure that they have taken on their own level of due diligence in regards to the production of these documents as well. So
Yes.
all of those due diligence layers are happening. I was just trying to understand that particular nuance.
Yep.
Okay.
I hope we did not scare you for all the 990s you have signed already.
Oh no, I'm signing it. I also know there are professionals who are required to abide by
Yes.
certain rules and
Yes.
requirements in
Right.
regards to producing them. But I think that I'm signing it on behalf of this nonprofit who has a board who should review and you know, I still, while I hear you, don't understand where there would be a level of hesitancy with the commission saying, excuse me, the board saying, we give you authorization to enter or sign or move forward with this on our behalf. But
Yeah. No,
yeah.
absolutely.
I think again, it's not a board. The board is not supposed to be signing it. So saying on our behalf assumes the board's supposed to be
Yeah, it's
signing
Yeah.
it, and that's not in fact the
a
case.
management function instead of,
Yeah.
Mhm. Right.
So then if you have the board acting in a management function, that opens up different kinds
Yeah.
of liability issues, etc.
Right.
Because when it distributed to the board is generally looking at, like, if there was a funder who gave us money, if we can look at, the list there, because there are two copies of this draft that
Right.
are produced. One is the management copy and one is for the public. So
Yeah.
the management copy, the internal copy is distributed to the board. So the board is aware of any challenges or any funder which, should or should not be there. If to also understand if the names on and the terms of the board seem to be correct. Amounts generally should be correct because it's very difficult to verify the exact amounts. Even if we drill down from what the preparers have prepared, it will take at least 3 to 4 hours to reproduce or reconcile the financial statements to the 990, because the negative and positive numbers, just like John was showing as he started reviewing the 990, is very difficult sometimes because the numbers don't reflect, and they're also in most cases they also reflect two different periods. In your case for HOCP, salary involved. If there was salary involved, it would reflect the salaries for the fiscal year 2023, even though this is produced for the year ending June 30th, 2024. So there are a lot of different. It's more like an informational return rather than a financial document.
Okay.
All right. Very good. So I guess very good questions were asked, and we had a lot of discussion on the 990. So the next item for our topic for discussion is the strategic plan.
And can we act on the resolution, or do you want us to redraft the wording?
Ken, what would you suggest? Ken?
You can say it's acknowledged. I mean, if that makes a difference, but I mean, we've talked around it enough to understand that
Okay.
that makes a difference.
Okay, so bullet 1 is okay.
That's the audit. Yeah.
That
right.
one's okay.
Yeah.
So if we changed
take it out of the resolved. So this maybe not the resolved section
You
is
take
not
it out
correct.
too. Yeah.
So
No,
maybe
but
a motion, and you all include in your motion what you'd like to be stricken from the resolution, and you all agree to that, then the resolution will be updated accordingly.
That sounds good.
All right.
So would someone like to make a motion and add additional language?
I can make a motion. Anybody wants a second?
Are you gonna make a motion first?
All right. Motion to exactly what we want us to do, John. Motion to take it out of the resolve section and be added to a separate section.
So the motion is to accept resolution 2501 and to strike bullet number 2
right.
and approve accordingly. Does that sound okay? Would someone be the first one to make that a motion if we were to strike this?
Yeah, I'll move it. We just move paragraph or bullet 2 in the first resolve.
Okay. And then probably the further resolve would cover the 990. So because the audit is used for the 990, you
Right.
have the president, executive director, which is Chelsea, is authorized to take any and all actions necessary and proper to carry out the transactions.
Right.
Okay. So Ken you made the motion?
Yeah.
Would someone second that motion to strike number 2?
We're seconding the whole motion, right?
Yes.
Not, so the motion is to accept the audit and do that. Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Then the minutes.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All right. All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Anybody opposed?
Okay, great.
So
Thank you very much.
Motion is approved.
This was a very healthy exercise for us.
Yes, thank you. Well, okay, so the next item requires action or deliberation. Next item needs an action, right, at the end of HOCP strategic plan adoption?
Yes. So so here, yes, if we go to the next action item is the adoption of the 2025-2030 strategic plan. As you see, we have started this process going back to July. We met also in September, October, and December. In each of those meetings, we discussed various elements of drafting the strategic plan, from basic needs to potential projections, and also potential impact on budget. At the December meeting, we presented to you the draft, which we also received some feedback from Ken and Alexandra, and also that was very helpful to produce that version. And we discussed all the various elements of the strategic plan, from the mission and vision statements all the way through the background and ultimately the goals, objectives, and strategies of the plan. And we had good, robust discussion, and ultimately you were ready to approve the plan at the December 17th meeting. But we didn't prepare a resolution because we didn't think you would be prepared to do such. So having said all that, from December 17th through today, we made just some grammatical changes, which are reflected in what was submitted to you in this version. And we also added the opening letter that would be signed by Varun and Chelsea. But ultimately, none of the goals, no, the mission statement and vision statement were not edited at all. And none of the goals or objectives or strategies were edited. We just had in some of these areas like customer needs, just to make it read a little bit more clearly. But the overall message is still there, and you see these insertions. Of course, these are just notes for the designer. So once you all adopt this plan, we will contract out to have a professional designer give us the final version with various photos and maybe a graphic or two. And then that final version, of course, will be posted on our website. And frequently, when we have to submit grant applications, the granting organization asks for strategic plan.
Yep.
So we do use it, and of course, we won't just put this on the bookshelf and look at it again in 2029, but we will be referring to it each and every year, especially when we present a draft budget for your deliberation in each spring. And also resident services is closely connected with this plan because the division has its own goals, objectives, and strategies for HOC's implementation of its strategic plans. So we will have all that information, and we will be monitoring and updating the progress each and every quarter. Ultimately, HOC is about to embark on a reporting of the implementation of the strategic plan on a quarterly basis. Once all that is announced, of course, we will share that information with you so you can also track it on HOC's website. But that's coming shortly. So I said a lot. Basically, the plan is here for your adoption. There were again, the most important part of the goals and objectives, the overarching goal, of course, addressing intergenerational cycles of poverty, expanding, diversifying programming, tracking and evaluating outcomes more effectively. That's a major goal. And we've discussed that topic many times over the last 6 months in preparation for this document. And of course, expanding the overall public awareness of HOCP. And the objectives, we break it down by age. So we have various objectives in early childhood, and then elementary, middle school, high school, and adults 18 and over, and then senior adults. So senior adults is something new for HOCP. The previous strategic plan didn't include anything for that population. So with more discretionary funding coming in to HOCP, we have more possibilities to expand our reach. And of course, ultimately, the strategic plan will provide all of you as board members direction on making decisions on request for discretionary funding from HOC. And then, of course, we have organizational objectives, which we also discussed in detail, basically enhancing our public awareness, strengthening our financial capacity, and expanding and strengthening the impact of the board of directors, and also increasing the use of data in making decisions for funding and other policies in the future. And then we have an acknowledgement page as part of the plan, showing all of the officers and board members, as well as the staff involved with drafting this. And then the final page would be basically our web address, so that we will highlight our newly redesigned website, and also this will be posted there as well. So let's see if we go back up to the resolution. Does anyone have any questions, concerns? Again, thank you to our sincere thanks to all of you. Like I said, we started in July, and you offered a great amount of input and very insightful questions, suggestions, and on each stage, whether it was overall needs of HOC customers and or our budget projections and exactly what HOCP can do. We realize that the plan includes many different objectives over the next 5 years. The HOC doesn't look to HOCP to literally fund everything, but will include many of these objectives so as to provide an overall framework on and direction in pursuing grant opportunities from either sponsors or foundations. So we discussed all of that, and we hope that the language in this plan addressed all of your concerns and interest in providing a good pathway for both HOC and HOCP to work together over the next 5 years.
You know what? I thank the staff actually for putting it actually together on paper or on computer and making the changes that some of the board members thought were necessary, and keeping it aligned with the HOC strategic plan. So I think it's a nice document for the next 4 or 5 years to follow as best we can. That's all.
I think it's never fun to go through this process. So Thank you, John, Chelsea, and everyone for hanging in there with it and trying to, your best to make it a robust, thoughtful process. So
I also, of course, this is a wonderful outcome here. I do want to just lift up and acknowledge and thank the resident services team, Davida and Nambia, who really took the time to get the research that could help inform where our strategic direction should go, and to provide that so that we weren't making these recommendations in a vacuum. And then also, of course, John and the rest of the team that actually put the pen to the paper to put this together. Much appreciation. And this is going to be extraordinarily impactful, and we'll be able to see how we're able to leverage the nonprofit as well as our partners in accomplishing the goals that we're setting forth here. So this is really a great accomplishment, and thank you, team.
And I think add, for an organization HOCP size to have a very professional document like this, I should thank you, Chelsea, and the very talented team at HOC for helping us produce such a very strong document which can provide the pathway to the next 3-4 years, 5 years, and not just that. I think it's so well, I believe, gels into HOC's mission statement too, that to produce a document, I'm sure and I think. We will have more educated discussions over the next 3 to 5 years now, looking at this document and revisiting this document and reminding ourselves, what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we are asking for any more comments from the board members. I know everybody spent such a, we had such educated discussion on this. I hope no changes, just maybe if anybody wants to add something here. Not at this point. All right. So now what do we do, John? Do we accept it or we need a resolution?
We hopefully do you see the resolution on the screen? We are asking for a motion to approve resolution number 2502 to resolve that the Housing Opportunities Community Partners adopts the 5-year strategic plan for 2025 to 2030.
So moved, Alexandra.
Alexandra, okay, great, thank you. And second?
The second, Eileen.
Eileen, wonderful.
All
If
right.
there isn't any more discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Let it be shown that it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, the motion is approved. All right. So I guess the next item is for deliberation. I think
Yes, just discussion.
Chelsea is going to say something on the board recruitment.
Yes, we're at the stage where we want to, of course, move forward with recruiting for new board members. And as we began to launch this recruitment, wanted to pause and revisit the conversation that we've started before related to the attributes of the different board members that we have identified in our current bylaws. And if John, if you can direct AJ to if he should scroll up in terms of the particular positions that we're recruiting for. But as you all may recall, there are certain backgrounds that the current bylaws call for. An attorney, where we have Ken, someone who might be from the industry, that's Teresa, like people who have various skills and experience. And that was, you see, we have an accountant, we have an attorney, marketing professional, of course, individual who has lived experience or a resident as well. And wanted an opportunity to pause to confirm that we want to keep this structure before we get out there recruiting, or should we revisit this and have a bylaw amendment? I will say that while I'm certain Ken can give the historic and has in the past, the initial thinking was these different skills would help balance and raise questions and also help support the nonprofit in making decisions. But at this juncture, our finance team really serves as the accountant for the nonprofit, comes in and provides support as needed, along with, of course, John. But John works very closely with our finance team, who has accountants who are responsible for managing the books here. As it pertains to the legal side, we also lean heavily on our general counsel for HOC. If we go through a bylaw revision, the general counsel will join this meeting and assist with revising our bylaws. And if there are any other legal issues, we lean in on that legal support. So, and those are just two examples, but we really want to ensure that we have a board of individuals who have the time, who have the energy, who are able to contribute meaningfully to the decisions that we're advancing, as well as lifting up the organization in a way that allows us to attract more resources. And if we create these various groups in the way that we have at this point, it may limit the pool of candidates. And so just wanted to have an opportunity to hear some feedback on that.
See, have you considered making the board 9 instead of 7? I honestly find kind of like having a lawyer and especially a CPA. So honestly, maybe the word accountant is a little misleading, on any board that I'm on, very helpful. You never need it unless you need it, right? That's the challenge. But if there is suddenly if there's an issue, it's phenomenally helpful. So I think you want a board that is there to support you in growth, but also there to support you in risk and challenging times. And both of those things can happen. So I don't know, just my own personal experience is that can be incredibly helpful when you're
And
having.
Eileen, and I don't disagree, but in the instances in which you've had that, because I've also had nonprofits where having those different skills are really critical. But I haven't had a scenario like this where there's this parent organization where those expertise, where there's whole divisions that literally support at will that organization, the nonprofit, and provides those services.
Yeah, I mean, I guess here would be the example where obviously we're not, we're thinking about this in a hypothetical. Let's say that it's not Chelsea and it's some other leader, and that
Mhm.
other leader is maybe the board has some concerns about something going on or something going on with whatever they're getting from management, right? There's just something, well, then it's very challenging to go around either the leader if that was the issue, or if you have a concern for some reason, then and you have no one on the board who brings that professional expertise, that's very challenging. So when you look at kind of the board's that oversight governance role, having some embedded expertise, I think is really helpful, because otherwise then the board is kind of going out to get that and either spending money or having inappropriate conversations in a challenging situation. That's just, I feel like
that's the risk of eliminating it. But Chelsea's right on what started it. That was sort of the guidance that we got from the commission on how to establish the board. And it hasn't been changed over time. Certainly, I don't think there's ever been any difficulty with a conflict of interest or a dispute with the executive director. But that what Eileen's mentioned is the reason for, I think, having an accountant and a lawyer on, and also just to provide, I guess, sort of common guidance during meetings and discussions where it's not really necessary to bring in the general counsel of the agency to discuss it. But the other items what are the other factors? There was a marketing professional, right? And who else, John? I'm trying to remember.
So there are 4 seats as the bylaws currently reads.
Yeah.
I'm not muted. Okay.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
have 4 seats designated.
Yeah.
One for an attorney, an accountant,
Yeah.
marketing/advocacy professional, and ultimately an HOC customer.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I do think it would be very helpful to have 2 more people on the board who would have maybe be stronger fundraising in Montgomery County.
Yeah, Eileen, I
yeah.
agree. I was
But-
just to jump in because I mean I have not been on the board as long as Ken and Varun, obviously, but I think the connective tissue with Montgomery County and the fact that it seems, I mean, Chelsea and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, a fair amount of our grant money and the money that comes through the gala and some of the other, I mean, it's local and state dollars. And I think having thinking about somebody that can join that has some of those relationships is not a bad idea. I hear you, Eileen, and I like the idea. I think it's very helpful. Varun, your background as an accountant, Ken, your background as an attorney. I have sort of the federal advocacy piece, but
Right.
I don't I don't dislike the idea of having, maybe potentially thinking about recruiting one or two others, especially Chelsea, if what I'm hearing from you and others is that fundraising, you want to have more of a focus on that. I think you need to look at maybe a slightly larger board to help accommodate that goal.
Could be. And
so then I definitely understand the feedback in regards to the desire to maintain some level of consistency with the current identified position. So the marketing professional, the assumption is that that individual is also helping and or supporting our marketing efforts and communication efforts. If we add on other people, which we can, and this is definitely something we would bring in, as I mentioned previously, our GC to look at how to make revisions to the bylaws that are being recommended here, adding extra seats. I would just tell you that my position is the attorney, the accountant, and the marketing, whoever these people are, all of them need to come with a level of commitment in regards to helping to raise awareness, either by partnership or resources for the nonprofit. And when we're recruiting and interviewing, you could be an attorney and someone who's also willing to assist with that next level of raising awareness and finding connections and resources for the group and for the organization. So even if we keep the current structure, I would strongly encourage us to think about those types of questions and that kind of posturing as we're looking for who might be best to join. There are nonprofits, obviously, where people give a financial commitment to even sit on the board. There are nonprofits where if you don't give out of your pocket, you still raise a certain amount. There's a zero threshold for this particular nonprofit. And then at the same time, in terms of no one's saying one person needs to go raise millions of dollars, but even being able to dedicate the time, be on a fundraising committee, help to think through who we should target or be an ambassador when there's certain opportunities. We definitely need that. So as we look at recruiting, even if we keep the same structure, I would strongly encourage us to look at people who are interested in supporting in that way.
I would totally agree with, I mean, I think you can have expectations of, this being a more of a fundraising board. Generally, fundraising boards can be quite large. And that evolves over time, but I think it gets, I guess when I was saying before the connection to Montgomery County, I think given that's it really needs to I don't know. I mean, I'm being honest here. Like, that's not my connection here. And I'm perfectly, I can say, here's how I think we should do this. I can do some bit, but that is not like where I bring stuff. So I'm like,
Yeah, and
I think that it's, to me, it's like people who are at the chamber, folks who, so you're looking for some balance of folks who are doing business in the county in a way and are just plugged into, or one of the larger corporate employers in the county. I mean, that's, people who have a family foundation, right? Like that's the reality of how folks do a fundraising board. It's a very different piece. You obviously still have to have the fiduciary responsibility and some knowledge. So trying to kind of balance that's one reason they get bigger, is so that people can still have like some subject matter expertise, fiduciary expertise, and fundraising expertise.
Yeah. I think that's actually contemplated in the existing language. Maybe the last sentence of that paragraph talks about people who are work with HOC and also are businesses that operate in Montgomery County. So it's addresses sort of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
So,
think we're a bit of an inflection point, right? Because that's not been what this board
right.
has done, right? I mean, Chelsea, you mentioned that before, and when I talked with Eileen and Alexandra about joining, that was, we joined at a time and they joined at a time when that wasn't sort of the primary focus, right? We had more of that fiduciary responsibility and um you know, uh, development of the strategic plan, thinking through supporting HOC's resident services and making sure there was alignment there and disbursement of funds and that sort of thing. Um, it would, yeah, I think it would be good to explore kind of, as we expand and maybe reorient a little bit. The focus of the board, kind of how, yeah, does it make sense? Eileen, to your point, like, um, when you grow it, a board, to think through those functions that need to be expanded, and fundraising is, that's not how we've built our board to date, right? So,
Right.
it may take some time, right, for us to, um, flesh that out and realize that too.
Absolutely. And just to, balance that, obviously this organization doesn't have staff in terms of you don't see a line item to pay for staff for the nonprofit. The staff that contribute towards this work is truly at will in terms of being staff that provide resources but are paid through the parent organization, right? The time, the hours for everyone. And so there's not a full group of staff members who have fundraising. We're not even recruiting talent that have fundraising as their main responsibility or their expertise. We don't have a development arm or that sort of thing. And so when we think about how best to leverage this particular group of volunteers that are supporting the nonprofit, again, I want to manage expectations. There's not a suggestion that all of a sudden we're going to turn to this huge powerhouse fundraiser. But clearly, when there is a fundraiser that's happening, the purpose and the need is, and fundraiser and partnerships. Both are just as valuable from my perspective in terms of what people can bring to the table. And so when we think about who we want on this commission, or excuse me, on this board, I have to keep switching hats. We want people who are able to support that and may or may not even had that experience in the past, but are willing to support that effort to be an ambassador and to help in that way. So I don't know that this needs to turn into a large board to accomplish that. I think that it really is just about, as we recruit and bring more people on, including that as something that we would be looking for as an attribute that someone would be willing to help support raising funds, because we really just raise funds for this organization by way of fundraisers. There's a grant or two we may get, but the only way we get funds is our fundraising. And John, one of the next items that's listed is really like a campaign to send out socials. Again, all of that is done by HOC staff that would be creating content and publishing it and trying to think about how often to do this to try to raise money for the nonprofit. But again, having the thought partnership of the nonprofit committee members or board members would be extraordinarily helpful. And this, so that's something I think we should definitely lift up. If there's some thought or agreement that maybe more board members would be helpful, then we should pause this discussion in regards to where John took the time to outline a timeline that would launch recruitment efforts and ultimately allow for an opportunity for candidates and interviews and for us to go through that process, an opportunity for us to come back and have a vote and or shift the bylaws before we go out. So then we know how many people we're recruiting for.
Sure.
Yeah, in that exercise.
You could say a maximum of 9, but not less than 7, and that would, give you the ability to go to 9 if you wanted to.
Yes.
But not be in trouble if, you just can't find 2 other people.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Ken. And I think
that's great.
To add here, a couple of things that I observed, Chelsea and the team, is that I know and we understand that the support being provided to HOCP is like fully volunteered by HOC. But to also add here, all the time that is being charged towards HOCP is being charged to HOC, right? This is like the staff working on HOCP is not volunteering as in volunteering, right? The charge code is HOC, right? And like, is this I'm just trying to understand for the benefit of the board, is the time being charged to HOCP over and above what staff would charge to HOC, or this is inclusive?
Oh, absolutely. Like, for example, right now, everyone who's working in this evening, this is an extra obligation that's happening that's
Right.
above and beyond normal work hours.
Right, exactly. No,
Right.
and the work that happens during the day too, right? Like, for example, supporting the because I'm like, the way I'm trying to put it is that the numbers don't fully do justice to the effort being put in by HOC to support this organization. Although it seems like a $500,000 organization in terms of the revenue and expenses, but the level of effort is much larger, because if all of this effort was supposed to come from employed staff, the level of effort would be approximately $200,000 to $250,000 more. So what is being not reflected, John, correct me if I'm wrong, is that level of effort being reflected in the numbers in the financial statements?
No.
No, right? But because a lot of this time that is being spent on HOCP is during office hours too. Like, I know the 6 meetings we have are office hours, but the preparation happens during the office hours, right?
Correct.
So there must be an accounting code in HOC's books in which this time is charged to reflect towards HOCP. So I'm sure if there was an accounting, we would know that there's a HOC really supports this organization, HOCP, in not just providing support and the brand, but also about $200,000 to $300,000 worth of time, I'm sure. So looking at that commitment, if we want to take this organization to the next level, you're absolutely right. We don't, but we need to find people who are committed to fundraising, but not just committed, who would then come with prior fundraising experience. Because this is not like a learning tool for somebody to come and say, let us try out. Because from what I understood from previous conversations and what you described, HOC does not have a fundraising team of itself, right? A strong fundraising. So you would not have somebody who is talented, or no, I should not say talented, but dedicated to be able to train somebody to do fundraising for you. You would look for somebody to come drive that whole function to fundraise for you, right?
Right. We don't have the staff, and I don't even know if we would ever hire someone full-time to do fundraising just for HOCP, unless we were going to get to a point where we literally hired a leader for this organization, and then there'd be a conversation with the nonprofit in regards to the ability to support and fund that. And I don't think we're at that inflection point where I think we could sustain, or the nonprofit could sustain, a full-time employee and benefits.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
And it's not necessary. I think all we're asking for is some folks to join the actual nonprofit that come with that level of interest in supporting that.
Exactly. And I think we have been hearing this concern from you for almost 6 months to 1 year. So it's something which is, I think, very important for HOC. I think next time what we could discuss is because, and why I brought up the discussion about the time being charged by HOC employees towards HOCP is it would be good to understand, like, if that is running into $150 or $200,000, like, worth of time, right? Because all of this strategic work that we have done and all of this work has been done, right? And you also, so the accounting staff supporting John, these, all of that reporting being done, all of the proposals going out, the preparation for the gala, right? So, so having said that, if it's going to be costing $250,000, we could do understand what the amount is. If it's so important, then maybe we should, if we cannot find real talent in the next 2 to 3 months to support HOCP, and if it's so important, we should seriously think about hiring a consultant, because the consultant has to provide direction. Somebody has to take up that charge for fundraising, to be able to then, fundraising has to be, it is critical. If if HOCP needs to become $1 million, $1.5 million organization to be able to support its activities, then it has to make that investment or not be there in 3 years or 2 years from now, right? What is the purpose then of running a budget of like $200,000 for the next 10 years and not being able to make any impact in the society or in supporting HOC's needs? So if there was a deliberation to to deliberately make an effort to change the direction, then either find real talent in terms of who can, maybe 2 members who can really jumpstart the fundraising, or find a consultant and maybe burn out the $200,000 in 3 years and be done with it, right? It has to go either way.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So, which probably won't is this may be worth another separate conversation, but
Yeah.
I also think having a conversation of the dynamic of the HOC, HOCP, quasi-public agency, what is allowable, what isn't dynamic, I think it would be very helpful to understand. And I think I honestly, as this conversation goes, I'm almost like put it up to 11, because if you actually want people to be fundraising, maybe that takes a year or two to get there. But I think you need more than two. That's too much burden on anybody. I would say the other thing is really thinking about, is it kind of a gala or whatever we call it that is a principle, because it's different kind of fundraising, right? Which I think is the challenge. I mean, Alexandra and I can talk all day about how to write a grant to the Kresge Foundation and what they might be looking for, but that's very different than how are we getting essentially what I think of as corporate and civic contributions from Montgomery County interests in supporting HOCP. And that is, whether it's the board members, the consultant, whatever, it's just a different kind of fundraising. And having hired many fundraising consultants, you can very quickly spend a lot of money and get nothing other than a lot of PowerPoint presentations. I'm not trying, but so you really have to kind of get a sense of where you want to go, where you think the best shot is. So I guess I think a little more conversation about from your perspective, Chelsea, given and your team's perspective, given some of the constraints you have, what is actually kind of, I don't want to use the word legally, but what is viable given the structure in this situation, which is different than some other structures, and how do we then think about that? So that's.
Davida, I see your hand is up.
I just wanted to thank Eileen for that comment. I think that each board member might have something to bring to the table by way of fundraising. So what you just stated in regards to having the grants expertise, I think would still be useful, whereas someone else might be more inclined to assist with the gala. So I think as we think about recruiting new board members, it's really about what commitment can they make and what makes sense given their expertise and experience. I can tell you the New York City Housing Authority has a very similar structure with their nonprofit, where the staff at the Housing Authority are executing all of the programming. and there's maybe one or two staff that are working for the nonprofit. And I mean, they have pretty robust finances with their nonprofit. So I think it can be done. It's definitely a new way of doing it here in Montgomery County. But we just have to have an openness to doing it differently, and having that focus. I've even seen board members host like a mini fundraiser with their friends and family where it's skate night, right? And they're charging more than the actual ticket price, and therefore they're raising funds that way. There's so many creative ways to contribute, that I think we should, explore and think about.
Yes. Okay. So this is definitely a good conversation, and it has led to, I think, us thinking a little bit more before we go ahead and launch the recruitment right now, because we want to make sure that if we need to do bylaw revisions, add more board members, or make any changes, that we have a chance to do that up front. And then of course I look to some of our current board members. We could begin this process and then evolve and open up for more positions later on as well. But this is great conversation, and we are at an inflection point. Again, I just want to reemphasize that it does not matter from my perspective if you're an accountant or an attorney or both. We're really just looking for people who are interested, engaged, and willing to support and lift up the organization and help to provide partnerships and resources. And so those are those attributes that I'm hopeful that we'll be able to recruit and attract.
Okay.
So then it's the next step for us to tell you all, let us know. Would you like further discussion about this? Is it helpful for me to have one-on-one discussions with various board members so that I can kind of get a better sense and then circle back? I think that might be a good idea. Yes.
So
Sure.
Yes. I'll arrange for that. And then I know we're at time here. We'll hold on this item and move to the next agenda item, John. And it has to do with fundraising, but it's a light touch. I don't think it requires much of the board because it's a social media, electronic type of sending out email blasts, etc., to try to raise funds as it pertains to our scholarship campaign. Last year, we were successful, I believe, in giving out $25,000 worth of scholarships. It was a beautiful event, and the scholars were so happy to have this. We are looking, there you go. John is highlighting that we're aiming to do this again for deserving seniors here in June, and we'd like to get some posts out there and do some marketing, and just wanted to provide a heads up and make sure that if there are any questions, we could answer it about moving forward. John, did we need an action item around this?
No, this was simply an announcement that this is coming. It's just two things. Please, it's just February, so hopefully you have no plans for June 25th. It would be really great to have several of the board members attend the awards ceremony. The kids that are chosen for these scholarships are just amazing, simply amazing. And to see the impact that it will have on them. It's really good for the board members to see this and to participate. So please pencil this in your calendars. This date is already firm from our perspective. It will be held at our Kensington office in the atrium. So look for more announcements on further details on time and activities related to that. But leading up to it, we really want to raise, when I posted this or sent this to all of you, it was 30,000. I shared this with my team in LPA, and they were saying, well, why can't we shoot for 60,000? And it's not an event. It's all simply outreach. We will create a special web page. We will, of course, write monthly blog entries through our Neon CRM. I will be sending out several email blasts and social media posts, and we also will be creating small TikTok type videos with last year's awardees. They're going to talk about how thankful they are to receive this scholarship, and so our donors can see the impact that it makes. So these short videos will be a big piece of our fundraising outreach. So we'll be sharing with you materials that we ask that you also share within your network of colleagues and friends. You know, anything, $100 donation, $500 donation. A few people might make $1,000 donations because they will add up, and it will help alleviate any pressure on our organizational budget this year, since we didn't reach our fundraising goal with Inspire. So I'm sharing this basically just to announce it and for you to look for more details on how you can help us with this.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
All right. I believe
That's
this
fine.
is our last.
Thanks, John. Thanks for
Yeah,
all your
that's
work.
good. Yep.
And the word we've all been looking for on our
Can
meeting.
I just ask one quick question, and
Sure.
maybe this can be the start of our next. I had sent you guys both an email, just understanding like potential impact of cuts. So maybe we could talk about that next time. Because as we talk about fundraising, one thing to realize is this is a very different climate than it has been in the past as far as who is fundraising for what and the gaps that people are facing depending on what actually happens with all these budget issues on the federal level, which assumedly impacts you indirectly and directly. So I think it is important that we, in some way understand that as you feel is appropriate, Chelsea.
Oh, no, absolutely. And John, if we could invite and bring Ken Silverman in, he can provide that update. We did that for the commission as well, and had an opportunity to just give a scan of an update in terms of the impacts of federal cuts, as well as where our agency may have challenges. Just so that, of course, you could only imagine is it's not just our agency, it's all of the other potential funding sources from nutrition programs, all the things that we can imagine our residents are going to need more of. So I guess that leans into the need to raise more money, but we really do need to think through how we, to the best of our ability, will support our residents who are going to be the most impacted, I think, by some of these actions coming from the executive. So, yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Varun. I think we're at the end of the meeting.
Good.
All right.
Yes, could someone make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn or motion to go out and start shoveling snow in your driveway?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Montgomery County
right.
schools are already closed, y'all.
Yes, my daughters
you
are
know.
my daughters are
surprise.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. All right.
All right.
All
Stay
right.
safe, everyone.
So,
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
motion to
To
end.
adjourn, second. Just to
Second, please,
Okay.
second. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay safe,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Right, all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.